What is going on, everybody? I am back. We are in the new room. Things are very dirty. No lighting yet. We're still working on some stuff. Animals not really where they're supposed to be as of yet. We just finished moving a couple weeks ago, and there is so much left to do. And honestly, we threw out half of our stuff, and we still have a ton. So, as you guys know, I'm Paul. This is For Real. I am here today with Brandon Boyles, or venomman20 if you follow him on YouTube and Instagram. And if you don't, you're missing out. He's got some great content. So get on over there, give him a follow, enjoy the content that he has, because there are not very many good venomous people out there that put good content out. So we're hoping that we can change that. Some of you other keepers out there that kind of stay on the down low and keep quiet, let's get some good content out there and bury the bad stuff. So without further ado, here's Brian. Brian, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and thank you for coming on today.
So thank you. I appreciate it. Name's Brandon. Yeah, swing and miss on that one, but it's all good. So yeah, everybody knows me as venomman20. I started out with the social media thing back in 2009. I started on YouTube. As far as that, like I originally started doing shows, like educational demonstrations for like the public. And then I put up one YouTube video and I got like 27,000 views. And I was like, wow, could never speak in front of 27,000 people. It would never happen. So then I started down the whole social media thing, and I probably didn't do that good, especially at the beginning. I probably was more of a liability than anything. I mean, back then, 18 years old, I didn't know that much. I probably shouldn't have been teaching anybody anything. But since then, I've tried to only put out good information. I know sometimes that's open for discussion. But at the same time, I kind of went away from YouTube. I've been off and on. Right now, I haven't been posting anything, although maybe I should be. But I moved over to TikTok, where I was able to grow my following even farther. So, I mean, just like last week, I was able to speak to a million people. How many of those people listen? I don't know. But I feel like, even if 1% did, that's still 1%. That's a lot of people, 100,000
sure.
people. Maybe I changed their minds. So
For sure.
But I've been keeping reptiles since I was 4, but I've been keeping venomous for I don't know if I should lie there or not, for about 17 years. I was a little young when I started. I definitely wouldn't recommend it, but at the same time, it worked for me. I always knew what I wanted to do, so it wasn't really kind of here or there. To each is their own. Some kids can't handle it. I wasn't the type to go out and get in trouble for the most part. I tried to always mind my P's and Q's. So
For sure. And honestly, I mean, if you look at I'm sure some of the other big names out there, they probably started off early too. I think you hit the nail on the head when you say there's a level of maturity. I think I have 5 kids, and I can tell you out of my 5 kids, I think really mature level wise, there's only one, my daughter Brianna, that I could say would accept the responsibility and be okay with it. Not that the other ones couldn't do it, but I just don't think their minds are in that. That's just not them. That's not them. So for those few people out there that can keep a big snake or a big lizard or something venomous, it, like you said, it takes some serious skill and focus. And this day and age, you're not going to see that 14-year-old anymore. But like you said, back in the day, you could pick this stuff up just about anywhere. I mean, I remember the first time I went to Ohio was with my now wife. We went to visit her grandparents, and they had alligators and caimans in a pet store, and they had a cobra in there for sale. So it was like, that was kind of a shock to me, because in New York, you didn't see that stuff, so I mean, I was 20. So, I was relatively young. That was 25 years ago. So, you look now and, you just don't see that stuff everywhere. So, I definitely think you're right there. So what did you find yourself more attracted to starting off?
So when I was a little kid, I was like probably 3 years old, and I was just begging my mom for a turtle. I wanted a turtle so freaking bad. But I grew up inside a family that had no interest in animals whatsoever, let alone reptiles. I was the weird one out. I was just the outlier. And eventually I was able to convince her to let me have this turtle. And I was 4 years old. I got it for birthday. And, ever since then, I've just never not had a reptile. Snakes were a big issue because she was terrified of snakes. Being, a single parent, she didn't like anything that even looked like a worm. It was too closely related. I remember trying to get those little loach fish, I think they're called. And she's like, those look too much like a snake. We can't do that.
So
did you want to redo anything?
No, we'll just pick back up where I was talking about when I went to Cody's. When I first met them, the only thing I ever wanted to work with was eyelash vipers. And I thought, man, what a perfect place. They've got eyelash vipers. They've got a lot of, arboreal small green snakes that this is perfect. I can get this experience. And then I went there, and the first day I was like, well, they're probably going to put me out in the rat barn, kind of get the feel for me, we'll get to know each other. And it was like, oh, no, come on. We're going to clean black mamba babies. And it's like, okay. And Cody's like, well, you're not going to handle anything. And I was like, oh, all right, cool. What are we going to do? He's like, well, I'm going to take the snake out. You're going to watch. I'm going to explain. You're going to pick up the poop, clean the water dish, put it back in, throw a mouse in. I'll put it back. I'm like, oh, okay. So we did that. And now, like you said, I wouldn't limit myself to anything at this point, and back when I was younger, the first venomous snake I can vividly remember seeing was a Bushmaster. It was on the cover of an encyclopedia or in an encyclopedia in school. And I remember seeing that and saying, one day I will have that, not knowing what it was, how hard, you know what I mean? Like that first thing, like I have to have that thing. So it's very cool that is that what's behind you?
No, we have some aurifer.
Okay.
Aurifer and probably eyelashes or march eye over here. Okay. It's always changing, just breeding and everything, moving stuff around. But yeah, it just depends on the day of the week, really.
Yeah. So, what do you
love to work with the book?
What do you primarily keep now yourself?
Myself, that's real hit and miss. I don't necessarily have a favorite. I don't have anything that I'm like, I've just got to have that. But I definitely look towards intelligence. I love monitor lizards because they're almost as smart as cattle dogs. I love crocodilians because I taught a pond of 13 their names within 2 months. They would come up individually when called. I love that. The mambas are intelligent. Forest cobras are so smart. I really like that stuff. But since I've been doing the YouTube and the TikTok and the Instagram, I've noticed that I've definitely been buying stuff that I know people will like to see. Gaboon vipers are beautiful. I love looking at them, but they do absolutely nothing. Yeah. So therefore, I can have one Gaboon viper and be completely happy with that whole genus for the most part, Okay. But at the same time, I know the fans would like to see a puff adder. They would like to see a rhino. So I catch myself looking at puff adders and rhinos. So, my friend that keeps a lot of the snakes that you see me work with, he's more of the rare stuff that no one's ever heard of. Yep. But if I'm sitting here trying to get conservation awareness for a ridge-nosed rattlesnake or the black-headed bushmaster, a lot of people don't know what a ridge-nosed rattlesnake is. To them, it's just another little rattlesnake. Yep. But if I can bring him in with the king cobra and then explain to him, this snake is only found on one mountain. We think there's 2,000 in the world, and this needs some conservation help. Maybe we can get the word out to the right person.
Yeah,
that's kind of my.
I mean, if you truly think about it, I don't work in the reptile field. I have a 9 to 5, and when I tell people what my hobby is, they look at you like you're crazy. And I work with somebody that's been in the military, and I always take time to say thank you to all those that have been in the military, especially to close friends and family, and those that have served and have lost loved ones. But Daryl always tells me whenever I show him a picture, he's like, "Is that how does he put it? Is that a South American death tree viper?" Everything is a South American death tree viper. Everything. Doesn't matter if it's green, doesn't matter if it's big. That's just the way he's identified. And, he told me when we first met, I will never, ever touch a snake. And he's been to my house now several times, and he's actually held a ball python. His daughter has a bearded dragon. They walk around with a bearded dragon in the house on their chest. I don't think he'll ever buy a snake, but I think I've got him past that point of, if I see one in my yard, I'm getting the AK-47 out and just destroying it because I can't be near it. So if we can do that, like you said, if you say rattlesnake, I think here in the US, people either think Arizona or Florida. Those are probably the first, or Texas. Those are the first three places that people think, and they automatically think Diamondback because that's what's widely publicized. And I'll be honest, up until meeting Cody, I was the same way. Like, I'd never heard of a ridge-nosed rattlesnake, or, you know, some of the other ones, the pricey eye, and some of this other really rare stuff that now I see pictures and it's like, wow, you can really appreciate that. So, you know, that's, I think that's the biggest thing is the conservation portion. Like you said, when you do social media, I'm not 100% sure that people understand as much as we like to think. You know, this social media thing is new for me. I'm new at it, and I'm still trying to figure out which, you know, what does everybody really, really want? Not what do they want, but what do I enjoy putting out there? And honestly, if I never did anything but talk to people like yourself, I'd be perfectly fine with that. You know, I mean, these are the things that I enjoy. I like hearing what other people are doing, and I could definitely see where you're coming from with, you know, you have a gaboon viper, AKA the venomous snake of the ball python world, where it just kind of sits there, doesn't move, but you can have that green mamba, that big green mamba that's always cruising around and checking things out, really inquisitive. When you come in the room, it's out looking, you know, that's super neat. So
Yeah, for sure. And I've noticed too, so I used to work at a zoo. I was head of plechiothermic animals for probably about a year and a half. And it was one of those things, they promised sunshine and rainbows. I've got there, and it was just, wow. Like, I can't believe this is going on inside a zoo. I have to watch what I say because I'm probably still under NDA, but that's beside the point. One day I remember I was walking back up to the venomous reptile house, and there was a little old lady standing out in front of the door, and she was just like standing there. And I'm like, you know, did you see the venomous reptiles? Did you enjoy your time? And she said, well, she's like, no, I don't really like snakes. I'm not going in there. She's like, I'm just waiting for my family. I'm like, oh, well, the exit door's over there, but you should see it because we got a good venomous collection. And she's like, well, she's like, I don't really like snakes. I'm like, well, I get that. But at the same time, you know, southern copperhead venom is a protein essentially, and it's venom that, you know, quercetin, or however you say it, that eliminates tumor growth in patients who have breast cancer and brain cancer. At that time, it wasn't really well studied. It wasn't completed, but I mentioned that. And I'm like, you know, there's a South American pit viper, Jararaca, Balthrops jararaca, that, you know, captoprils was derived off of. And now it's synthesized inside a lab. But if it wasn't for that snake, we wouldn't understand how to lower people's blood pressure. So if you know anybody from high blood pressure, they're alive because of that snake, more than likely. And she's like, wow, I never knew that. And when I was leaving that day, she was up by the reptile house. It's like, it's been 3 hours. What are you doing? You know, but I'm just like, hey, did you have a good day at the zoo? And she's like, yeah. She's like, actually, the venomous snake house is now my favorite part of the zoo. She's like, I've been through 3 times now. She's like, I have a different appreciation for it. I'm like, holy crap. Like that feeling, you know, it always brings me to tears just talking about it. I'm like, that's awesome. That's just such an awesome feeling.
It's that one person, you know, when you go somewhere, people just don't understand why we have such a big passion for it. And, you know, it gets me all the time, you know, when we talk about the free handling stuff and some of these guys on YouTube and the things that they're doing, and they don't realize the ramifications of what they're doing at this juncture. They don't understand that, and I'm going to touch on this right now, Chandler's Wildlife. He is all over South Florida newspapers right now. Picture on the cover of the newspaper of him holding the king cobra with his bare hands because his neighbors do not want him opening a facility there. So he wants to open to the public facility, and they're telling him no, and they're fighting it tooth and nail. Well, this is very bad publicity for us. And that photograph is all over the front of these papers, and people are talking about how dangerous these animals are. And I think at the end of the day, while I agree that most people don't care about free handling, they wouldn't even understand the term. They understand things like escaped, bitten. They don't, however you were bitten, it doesn't matter. You have the animal, it doesn't make a difference to them. I agree with that. But every time we do these little things, they turn into big things. And sooner or later, a legislature is making a law that is going to hurt all of us. And it may hit us here in Florida, and then it just starts to spread all over the place because one state says, hey, how did you do that? We want to do that too.
Yeah.
And things like USARC and being a member, and you're all I say all the time is police yourself on YouTube. That's it. Police yourself on YouTube. Yeah. Don't do that sensationalistic bro style, look at me. Don't do that. Educate somebody. Get that one person to post on that picture and say, or on that video and say, hey, I hated snakes. I love them now because of that video. I might not ever own one, but I have a new respect for that animal. And just like you just said, that's all we have to do is just put the right content out there to not drive the hobby into the ground. So,
Yeah, and it's a catch-22. I mean, I can see both sides. I definitely, I've been pretty out forward that I don't believe in free handling. When I was 15, when I was 16, I did stupid crap. I was a 15-year-old. I was a 16-year-old. I never got bit. I think that, I didn't, there wasn't social media back then. Yeah. And there are pictures of me doing stupid stuff. Those will never be released to the public. I don't want people to see that. I never wanted some little kid to see like, oh, you're the coolest guy ever. I want to do that too. Don't do that. There was a million things that happened before that. That was my calmest one. I was having a really good day. It was having a really good day. The temperatures were cool inside the room. It had just ate. We're just out of shed. And now you're trying it, and it's a different story. Yeah. A lot of people's biggest defense is that no laws ever passed, as far as we know, from a bite taking place.
For sure.
And I don't believe that, because in my state of Missouri, don't quote me on this, but this is what I've been told, this is what's been drilled into my head, is that back in the 70s and the 80s, there was a senator whose daughter went over to a house and she was screwing with a monkey, and she took a bad bite from the monkey. The senator, I think it was a senator, I don't know, don't know my politics. He's like, what the hell were they doing with a monkey? And then he went ahead and made a big list of laws, and venomous snakes were thrown on there, and that's fine and dandy. Now we have to register them like a handgun. That's okay. I get that. But at the same time, that law was put in place because now, God forbid, it had been a king cobra. That would have been a different story. A monkey bite's not nearly as bad as a king cobra bite unless it has herpes or something. Yeah. I mean, that's possible. But sure. No, I see it's pretty crazy out there. Just the fact that, just like you said, publicizing it's a little bit different. I kind of understand the clickbaitiness because you almost have to in order to get any sort of attention. I get that. But at the same time, you can teach people a million things while you're doing it. A lot of it, just like you said, just sensationalized. Look at me, look at me, look at me. And that's the whole thing. And I don't believe in it, but at the same time, I do kind of understand the clickbaitiness concept and why it almost has to take place. Otherwise, they'll have 10 subscribers too. They're not going to go anywhere, and somebody else will do it.
I have reservations about thumbnails. So the day that Florida Fish and Wildlife passed the ban on the CSP animals, so I was a CSP holder and bred retics. I sold my snakes beginning of 2020 when all this stuff started because, to be honest, I didn't even want to deal with it. I just did not want to deal with it. We went into ball pythons. We have a bunch of ball pythons and boas. I just did not want to deal with what was going to happen. So, but the day they were in meetings, Tyler Nolan posted a picture of a newborn Enceladus wrapped around his finger that the king cobra bit. I'm sure you saw the picture.
I seen it just the other day. I'm like, wow, that's like insult to injury right there. Like,
so that was the day they passed the law. So to me as a keeper, I took that as a personal FU. After the very next day, that Saturday, and I know, listen, I'm a big supporter of Brian Barczyk. Always have been, probably always will be. I don't agree with everything he does. Let me just say that before anybody beats me up. That's how I feel. So with that said, he posts a picture where he's like falling over my 20-foot snake almost did something to me. And I don't remember the caption. I don't care to remember it. But to me, it was very, very bad timing because the day before he had done this great video talking about USARC, how he donated money, how, people in Florida are being punished for this. So when I see something like that, it's like, I get it because somebody like Jay Brewer from Prehistoric Pets, Jay's zoo is closed because of COVID. He has to do something to make ends meet and pay for all that. So I get it. When you see people like, Brian Barczyk, New England Reptile, Jay Brewer, I get it. Do I always agree with it? No. Do I understand people have to eat? 100%. We all have to. So the things that get me are the, like we said, look at me, look at me, look at me. Those guys aren't doing the look at me, look at me, look at me. They're doing the, ooh, look at this, look at this, look at this. I get it. When I did the video with Nate from M Toxin, Nate was nipped by a black mamba, and, that was the thumbnail that I used. And I thought, when I did it, I thought, well, I assume clickbait is more like I'm getting you to click on a video about this, but it's really this. So I just took that as I made it a very edgy thumbnail, but that's what the video was about. That information was there for everybody to hear, and Nate was not shy about talking about the bite and how it happened. And honestly, those are the things as venomous keepers that we all need to know. We need to know what happened. How did you progress through from the bite? What did you do? So that this way, when we develop our own protocols here, we can use that information to say, hey, I need to be to this hospital instead of this one because in this amount of time, I could be dead. This is what I need to do. I need to get my IND. I need to have all this stuff in place so that this way, Florida Fish and Wildlife will never mess with you. They will never bother you if you do everything right. So I see that part. People have to make a living. I think we all can agree with that, but there comes a point where you just have to say, why do it? Why?
Well, my biggest thing on that is sorry for interrupting there.
No, you're good. You're good.
This one's going to be a little bit of a tangent, but bear with me on this one. So
for sure.
I'm going to screw up some names on this one, but back in the day when I was a little kid, I can't remember my age. I was watching the guy Luke Yemens. He's over in the UK. He was trying to open up King Cobra Sanctuary. The guy seemed to be smart. I understand he had his problems, but the guy seemed to actually know what he was doing. He was doing a lot of like bite force studies, and he had the venom-proof gloves. And I don't really believe in them, but that's beside the point. Yeah. He worked his entire life to set up this King Cobra Sanctuary. A great deal. Him and Mark Denty, I do believe is how you pronounce his name. If I'm murdering that, I'm very sorry. He was in there working with one of the King Cobras, and he got bit. He was a big free handler, but he was very good at what he did. So I never tried to judge him. He knows more than me. I'll back up. I have no right to say anything. So I was watching him. He got bit, and he died within 5 minutes. He went into anaphylaxis. It wasn't the King Cobra bite that killed him. It was the anaphylaxis. He'd been bit multiple times before that by snakes that wouldn't kill you, but the cross reactivity was there. And right then and there, I'm like, this guy's better than me. Although I'd never been bit, I'd only been doing it 3 years. I'm like, this guy's better than me, and he just died. I really need to watch what I'm doing. This is literally life and death. I never looked at it that way beforehand because there's 7,000 to 8,000 venomous snake bites in the United States every year. 3 to 5 people actually die. I always thought, they'll save me. Yeah, those are copperhead bites. Those aren't mamba bites. It's a little bit different. Now, at the same time, we do have some great medical team in the United States. We have some great anti-venom. We have some great first responders, but still. Now, I was working under a guy when I turned 18, and I'm not going to give out his name just because, I don't feel right. Very nice guy. He made me a little bit nervous the way he worked, just because he was recovering from a leg issue, and with that, he still did it. And if you're working eyelashes, what? Yeah. But he's working bothrops and stuff, and I'm like, whoo, that's a snake that a lot of times they'll run and get you off balance already, and you're trying to catch him and come back on you. And I'm just like, oh man, he's making me so nervous. So he ended up getting bit a couple years after I quit, and he got bit by Protobothrops jardini, and he passed away from that bite, and he shouldn't have. No one's ever died from Protobothrops jardini, as far as we know. But he went into anaphylaxis because he had been bit before by mambas and all this other stuff because he was handling them sometimes in an improper way. And it's like maybe the free handling that day is not going to get you, but maybe those 4 bites beforehand did, and they just built up I don't know, man. It's just, but at the same time, Then the other end of the spectrum, I'm going to name drop on this one. Hopefully he doesn't hate me. Wicked Wildlife from Nick. Nick from Wicked Wildlife, got that backwards. My dyslexia, bear with me. Great guy. He's from Australia. They only deal with natives in Australia, of course, because you can't get in anything exotic. They have all the anti-venom right there on hand. And he handles red bellies just by holding them. At the same time, he's not, oh, look at the red belly, get it in your face, you know. He's just like, here's my red belly. It's a beautiful snake. Let's learn some facts about it. And at no time has he ever made me nervous. There's not been, he's also been doing it 20 years and never been bit. So there's something to, you know, and then there's other snakes, coastal taipan, he won't do that ever. You know, he's got his hook. He's very mindful. This tiger snake, he's not even touching. He's just standing there with the tiger snake. And I think a lot of that's just, yet again, knowing your snake. Yet again, everything's native over there. If you're doing something with a copperhead, I'm going to be a lot more comfortable than if it's a freaking saw scale from India. You know, it's just. For sure. I hate to draw the line, and I hate to be so black and white, not so, it's so kind of gray, because there's a lot of gray area there, but it's just, some of it makes me very nervous. And I don't know. Well, I don't need to judge anybody. I think we're all on the same team, and we need to learn how to fight together. But at the same time, you know, there's got to be.
So let me ask you this: do you keep firearms?
Yeah, some not. I'm not a big firearms fan. Oh, I can.
So here's the thing: when you see legislation come up for Second Amendment stuff, you see everybody in 2A band together and fight. It could be the worst enemies. They're still going to band together to protect the Second Amendment. I'm not comparing reptiles to the Second Amendment. Again, I'm sure somebody will, whatever. However, in the reptile world, when these laws come up, everybody separates. You have people, and this is a prime example, no hate to the tegu and iguana people. Love you guys. Love all reptiles. But when this CSP ban started, the tegu and iguana people outright said, we don't care about big snakes. We only care about us. I breed these animals. I don't care about you guys. Well, you can't look at it that way, because they took away my right to keep and breed retics. And they also took away your right. They gave you a few extra years. In 2024, nobody will be able to breed or keep iguanas or tegus in the state of Florida. So I lost my right immediately a week ago. You can't keep these animals anymore. You're done. So we have to fight together and not point the finger at one another and say this. And you're right. I point the finger at the free handlers. I will always do that. And you want to know why? Because I can't get any of them to have a adult conversation and give me a reason as to why they have to do it to live their lives. I get things like, they're my snakes, I'll do what I want. Block. I've been blocked by Tyler Nolan on every platform because he doesn't want to hear what I have to say. I don't like Tyler.
You know,
that's my issue right now because of that.
I'm at the same time, I strongly believe, and I do this, I'm the worst troll on the internet, and I know I am. Like, if you go on my TikTok comments, you'll be like, wow, this guy's a real butthole. But at the same time, I'm very passionate about it too, and you're coming right at me. Now, I remember that if I stay calm and I present myself right, maybe I can convince that person to not be that way, you know? So I hate to go against anybody and be like, hey man, stop doing that. You know, I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to be the guy, but I do hope to, you know, convince some people that if you want to impress me, if you want to impress my circle of people, which are some pretty higher up people, a lot of them, not bragging, I'm just saying that some of them are, come at us with some knowledge. That's how I got into reptiles, is when I was 18, in order to get a mamba, I had to be able to talk about big game. I had to be able to talk scientific names. I had to be able to talk about cardiotoxins, dendrotoxins. I had to be able to talk about any of that to anybody, because some of those guys were listening. And if I didn't present myself right, there was no way. You know, when they're talking to me, they're like, oh, I thought you was like 25. Thank you. I appreciate that. If you come at me at 12 years old and you start talking that stuff, I'm going to be so freaking impressed. I don't care what you can do with a good boom viper. Any of us can pick it up. I can go drink a 12-pack tonight and pick it up. It's all a game of numbers. I can do it 100 times. Can I do it 101? You know, my mentor told me that if I was doing this long enough, that I would be bit. period. No, that's not how that works. The way he related it was if you cross a highway one time, you'll make it. Do you think you can make it a million times? If you look both ways, you can. It's not that hard. Now, at the same time, there's a chance there will be an earthquake tonight, right now, and this stuff will fall on me. There's that chance.
Yep.
There's that chance I'll be walking into a room and I'll trip over an extension cord. There's that chance. But that's an act of God. Yeah. You know, when I'm sitting here working Bushmasters, I know I'm outside of strike range. There's nothing to worry about. Stay focused. Your phone's ringing. The ringer should have been off in the first place. Yeah. Your backup lights should be on in the first place. You know, there's no need to get bit. If I die without getting bit, I would love to be able to go out doing what I love, but I would much rather be inside a car accident. Let's be serious about it. You know, I don't want that name for the reptiles. You know, I don't want that. I told you that snake was going to get him, just like Steve Irwin used to say. You know, I don't want to be that. I want to go to my death never experiencing venom. Now, I do screw with bugs a lot. I'm not going to lie. There's very few bugs out there that really scare me. But at the same time, like, you know, if I get bit by a black widow tomorrow, I'm okay with that. We're just not going to talk about it. You know?
and that's the thing. Like, I get what you're saying. And again, if somebody wants to have, you ask somebody to have an educated conversation, and, you know, and I'll be honest, the last conversation I had with Tyler wasn't a terrible one. You know, we went back and forth a little bit about the New England reptile video and how he had come out in support of the guys that were letting Burns go in Miami. And he did explain that that wasn't what he was not defending those guys. So by no means was he defending them. He 100% agrees on, you know, the animal cruelty stuff, shooting them with blow dart, 100% against that. So his video that he put up and then took down was he just misspoke. And I believe that. I believe that Tyler Nolan, Chandler, all those guys, they love their animals, that they have a vast knowledge of their animals, that they would never want anything to happen to them. I truly believe that. My issue lies in the fact that you can't give a good reason as to why you have to free handle. All the reasons are, this is how I was trained. This is how I was taught. This is just what I do. You know what? Just say, I want to get clicks and views on YouTube. I will have more respect for you for not lying. Just don't lie about it. I'm not going to appreciate the fact that what you're doing is putting a black light on all of us that are doing it right. Like you said, these people in the circles, and I'm friends with Cody, so you know the people that we're all friends with, they look at this very, very unprofessionally. And I don't want to be associated with that. So at the end of the day, you do you. I have no problem with that. You want to die getting bit by a snake, that's fine. That's your choice. Your snake, your life, do you. When it affects us in the state of Florida, I have a problem now, because I had thousands of dollars invested in retics that are gone. And I'm so scared to get my venomous permit and buy a whole bunch of snakes a year from now to have them say, oh, by the way, you can't keep those either.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, it's a double-edged sword. What do you do? You know, I mean, I get what you're saying. You know, you get better results, you know, by level head, be professional. Sometimes I let my emotions get the best of me. And at the end of the day, it's just because I'm so passionate about it. You know, I don't want to lose my right to keep these animals. So, you know, I mean, it's tough.
Yet again, if me and you are hanging out for a night and you do something that I don't necessarily agree with, if there's not a camera on, we can talk about that later on. I don't care, whatever. When the cameras are rolling, I try to be as professional as possible. Unfortunately, like I said, I think that there is room for clickbaitiness a little bit. And I think it's a fine line. And, you know, if you're treading over that line, you know, you were trying to stick to the line. I'm not, you know, like people came after me on my King Cobra video. They said I was free handling at the end of the video. At the end of the video, my arm was too shaky to hold the hook any longer because he was such a big animal. Honestly, with that big of an animal, I should have had a python hook, I guess. I don't own a python hook.
Me and Cody talked
so I just ended up picking them up, and, you know, it's just such a big animal.
We've talked about that. I've talked about the whole King Cobra thing with several people, and they say the same thing. You can double hook a mamba. You can double hook a forest cobra. A king cobra, that's just that point where you either are one hook and a tail, or potentially, you know, using your hands for it with a hook up there. We all agree on that. I think at the end of the day, you have to make that call for your safety. If you can't, and I've been in that position when Cody was training me, like, Cody, I've been doing this all day. Like, my arms are tired and I don't feel comfortable doing this. I'm just going to tap out. I'm not going to do it. I mean, I didn't work the Bothrops, the big Mujini or the big Asper for a year because I would get to those cages and just be like, hey, you know what? I still feel comfortable right now. And Cody used to always tell me, you ready? I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'll let you do it. I'm not in any big rush. I want to be 100% on my game and ready to go, because I've seen what they can do. So it's like, you just have to be smart enough to understand, like you said, if you cross the street and you look both ways every time, you should never die.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yet again, I hate to even get into this conversation for the main fact of I've had negative press on me. So I have no right to judge anybody on anything. That's my personal opinion. It does make me nervous. Yet again, I haven't outwardly given my stance on it. But yet again, just like I said, if you come at me with knowledge, I'm going to respect you 100%.
Sure.
And you don't have to know everything.
No.
Just the willingness to learn really makes, makes my business. The sad part is if tomorrow, typically, I do agree that if venomous laws are passed, a lot of times it is with snake escapes. That is a huge
Oh, yeah. I agree. I think that's 100%.
Unacceptable. But at the same time, if laws are passed, you got to figure the work that I'm doing right now. I'm honestly, it might sound, I would really like to save the black-headed bushmaster. We're working with quite a few blackheads, and there's really no one working in the United States. I'm not going to be naming names, but yet again, they're working them. That's awesome. And then us. So at the same time, the zoos aren't going to step up. No offense to zoos, but they have to put animals on display. Just work for a bushmaster. So I really want to save that animal. If tomorrow the permits don't come through, it says my internet's unstable. Hopefully you're still getting me.
I can still hear you.
Let me know if there's any issue. But
no, you're good. You're good. You're good.
Okay, good deal. So if tomorrow the permits don't come through, if the laws do change, I'm not grandfathered in. That species could literally go extinct. I mean, I feel like I'm talking myself up that I'm better than I am because I'm not the savior of the blackhead, but I could be. It could happen. Yet again, at Venom Fest, which was a big venomous conference thing that we did, we hoped to be extremely educational, which we tried. I blew my speech, but that was just a rough day. Regardless of that, M-Toxins came in and bought a lot of snakes. He has a venom lab. That's where he got his models, was our import, the people that imported these animals for the fest. So without us, I'm sure he could have got the mambas, but there's more red tape there. So the guy that's doing the extractions and looking for cures for stuff is now even worse off when they make it illegal for us to keep these animals. I don't know. You might be the next Dr. Brian Fry. We don't know yet. Time hasn't played out. So if you can't keep them, are you going to be? Probably not.
We've talked about this at Cody's all the time. The zoological side versus the I don't know, what would you call it? The private sector. So us people on the private side, if you ban all this stuff, you are relying on zoos to reproduce or keep these populations alive, and it's just not going to happen. There's no way. You need the private sector to be able to keep that going. So when we hear things like big bans and we're not going to be able to keep them, like you said, if they come through and say, hey, no more black-headed bushmasters, there's a legitimate chance that you may never see those in a U.S. collection again or in the wild. It can happen. I'm sure it's happened with some species out there already, and I don't know. I'm not a zoological guy. I'm me, and I'm a food safety and sanitation manager, and I'm doing this because I love it. And at the end of the day, I would love to be able to give back and say, hey, I kept a species that, was really hard to keep. And, I maybe produced a baby or two or three and was able to be a part of something big, or something bigger. So I mean, I definitely understand where you're coming from. I mean, that would be just devastating to, you know, those species. You know, how about marchi? You know, marchi is another one that you don't see. Arbor, that's
Marchi,
another one.
that's huge. The regional
Bicolor. Yeah.
rattlesnakes, a lot of those. Barnett's lanceheads, the lanceolatus we're working. You know, those are restricted to one island. So if the island gets hit, they're done. You know, there's one other guy in Europe that has two, but that's it.
Yeah.
We were the first person to breed them, besides back in 1901. Raymond Ditmar, according to his biography, mentioned that he bred them. But I mean, where did those snakes go? But at the same time, the whole blackhead, you know, I literally have friends that breed really rare geckos, and zoos hit them up every day. They're like, hey, unfortunately, our colony collapsed. Can we buy some more from you? You know, have the zoo set us up. Hey, we need some more blackheads. Can we buy some more from you? So a lot of people see us as just the redheaded stepchild. You know, they don't see us as a legitimate, but at the same time, you will be breeding that species for 10 years, and the zoo does it for the first time, and they put it up in lights, and everybody's like, wow, the first breeding. That's not how that works.
No, it's just their first breeding. Yeah.
We've had 10 people do it since. Yeah. And I'm not trying to go us versus the zoo. We both have
there's a place.
Exactly. But at the same time, like a lot of people ask me, well, why should you be able to have those? And just like I told you earlier, last week, not boasting, I'm not that guy, I don't really care, I was able to reach 10 million people. Now, I wasn't able to have a one-on-one conversation, and 10 million people watched it. Last year, 2 million people went to National Zoo, the most accredited facility in the United States that I am aware of. You know, this is one of the best. It's top tier. Washington, D.C. Zoo. Only 2 million? I did 10 in a week. Come on, now step up your numbers. Those are rookie numbers. Yeah. But at the same time, people went and seen everything. Okay, what's the percentage that went through the reptile house? Because I only do reptiles because I'm allergic to everything with fur. Except for marsupials. I can hug a kangaroo and not have an issue.
Well, there you go. There you go. No, but, and you're right. I mean, those are the things that, you know, like I fell into TikTok a couple months ago, and my kids and my wife all think I'm crazy. But that's my every night ritual now before I go to bed for like 15 minutes or 45. Not that I'm counting, that I scroll through. And it's like every fourth video makes me laugh really hard. So I hit that fourth video and I'm like, oh, I got to keep going. This is great. Yeah. You know, so, and this is, listen, I picked up on yours, and, you know, you put great content out, and that's the cool thing. You know, it's a snippet of what reptile keeping really is. And I just hope that as we have more of these shows and more YouTube channels and more people getting out there and doing this, that we can show that there is good stuff out there, you know, that there is conservation, that people that don't like snakes, just because they don't like a snake doesn't mean they want to see them go extinct. You know, for some people they do. But I mean, I can argue the fact that people complain down here about Burmese pythons. Cats are way worse.
Oh yeah,
100 times worse. You know, so I don't even want to have that argument. Too many people, you know, jump. Oh, you know, they're cats. You know, they're house pets. You know, snakes aren't house pets. Whatever. Define a house pet. There's no definition. That's very, very loose.
The Burmese python is a real issue. I'm never going to undermine that. It is a real issue, 100% guaranteed. But comparative to wild hogs, comparative to cats, it's not an issue.
Invasive fish,
you know, cats have drove 66 species to extinction. That's an issue. You know, and then they want to blame me. They want to blame you for the Burmese pythons. Oh, it could be a black mamba next. Highly unlikely. If you look at Burma versus Florida, or Myanmar versus Florida, formerly Burma, it is the exact same. It's the same place. It really is. And now, yet again, I was reading, I do believe it was Stolen World. They mentioned the fact that one importer back in Oklahoma in 1965 imported 150 million, there was 150 tons of reptiles out of, I want to say Asia. Most of them were Burmese pythons. Where did those go? Well, roadside zoos in Florida were flourishing. They were more common than gas stations practically. And most gas stations had them attached. Well, as these places started to go under, a lot of these people just cast out all their animals out. You know, they just let them loose. It was a $5 snake. Who gives a crap?
Yeah.
Well, the problem is 1970s when we first started seeing Burmese pythons in the Everglades. Another question, when's the last time that we found an albino, a Lucy, a granite? I understand these animals aren't going to survive as good in the Everglades, but they're also going to be easier to find. We should have at least found 1 or 2 or 19. And last check I had, I haven't seen a single picture. They might exist. You know, there might be.
They might be, but
it's not your pet escaping your bathtub.
Yeah.
It just isn't.
No.
It's
I
spend $400 on that animal. I don't want it to get out. That's
exactly
the worst. You know, that's horrible. And if it doesn't, if it's that person, it probably got out inside an apartment complex and it didn't live anywhere. It got hit by the bus right outside at the stop sign. You know.
Yeah.
So,
and those are the things that, you know, again, it's you see the videos and stuff, and here's back to the nerd video. These guys that are releasing they're catching Burmese pythons on, say, a Thursday night, and then on Saturday night they're letting them go, shooting them with bow and arrow, spearing them in a creek, letting them go in a storm drain in the middle of Miami or wherever it was, and catching it like it was there and inciting panic. And we sent all this information to Florida Fish and Wildlife. Again, another one of my soapboxes. Florida Fish and Wildlife refuses to do anything about it. Why? Because it's a benefit to Florida Fish and Wildlife. It's keeping people excited about it. Grow some balls, go out there, get these people that are being cruel to animals and illegally releasing. Once you capture that animal, the rules on Fish and Wildlife's website are very distinct. They are to be humanely euthanized with a firearm in an area that you can use a firearm, or a bolt gun. At that point that you catch it, you're not supposed to keep it for 4 or 5 days alive, release it, then kill it with a spear. They refuse to pursue any of this because it's inciting panic and getting people all worked up, and they can say, see, there's a problem. On top of that, these guys, this dude had 13 million views on that video in a month. On top of that 13 million views, he's got some other videos where he's deep frying an iguana. You know, now if you want to kill an iguana and you want to eat it, by all means, you do you. But the clickbait portion of it is him with an iguana in his hand, lowering it into a vat of oil. Here's an iguana that they've shot with a blow dart that's in a sink with scalding hot water running on it. How is that even legitimately allowed to be on YouTube?
You know, that's a big thing too, and that's my biggest pet peeve against TikTok. I like them because they have allowed me to reach a new audience, but at the same time, I posted a video going up against the rattlesnake roundups because it's the same thing. You know, they literally rip these snakes' teeth out and then sew their mouths shut so you can hold it and get a picture with it. You know, animal cruelty, it's not a fine line. You know, either it's cruel or it's not. And then I post a video of me holding a deli cup with my new Gaboon Viper. I'm like, check it out. This is so cool. And people freak out. They're like, there's no air holes. Yes, there is. Look closer. That's not okay. He's too cramped in there. No, he's not. He's an ambush predator. He's only in here for 9 hours. He's not too cramped. He hasn't moved in a month in the wild.
Yeah, maybe two.
Where's his food? Where's his water? I don't understand. Okay, if you want to attack somebody, don't attack that. You know, you can give me your helpful advice. That's wonderful. But let's band together, go up against these rattlesnake roundups where they're literally torturing these snakes. I mean, that's all there is to it. They're kicking them around inside a pit. They're, you know, cutting their heads off, which we both know is not a good way to kill a snake because they don't require as much oxygen to the brain. So, I mean, their brain lives for an additional 15 minutes or so. If I'm screwing them a little, bear with me.
It's crazy.
I'm in the ballpark.
Yeah.
I mean, come on now. And then at the same time, like I said, the Burmese pythons in Florida, definitely an issue. Definitely from an ecological standpoint, it's not good, even though, like I stated, the cats are worse. I'm not coming against cat owners. Just keep the damn cat inside. Now, at the same time, how many people have died from constrictions in Florida since the Burmese python epidemic happened? Less than COVID? I mean, we're all making a joke out of this COVID thing, but at the same time, like, I don't know, it doesn't really seem like the Burmese pythons are that scary.
What gets me
But
with the whole ban is they took iguanas and tegus, added them to the conditional species license, moved all the conditional species animals to prohibited, and left the green iguanas and tegus, and said, okay, you can still breed them up until June of 2024, but you can't sell them in Florida, which is fine. What I think would have been fair to all of us who are breeding these animals would have been, hey, it's 2021. We're going to give you guys 3 years to figure out what you're going to do. For people who, because there's a handful of people down here that strictly were breeding retics that now either have to move or close their business.
Yeah.
Do you really want to see people lose their livelihood in the middle of this pandemic because somebody's releasing snakes in the middle of a city and catching them or whatever? And I agree with you. There is a problem, but there's ways to police that problem. There's never been a Burmese python caught with a pit tag. Those are required. It's a requirement of us as keepers when we get those animals to have them tagged so that Fish and Wildlife can scan them. When people do bring those animals in, they run a scanner over them to make sure. There's never been a retic found. There's been a half a dozen retics found, but never a population of them. They were escaped pets.
The ones that I've found were so emaciated.
Yeah, they were
like
escaped
those
pets.
animals were dying. They are not doing well.
Yeah.
They look horrible.
Yes. So, but I mean, at the end of the day, we have to be smarter than Fish and Wildlife, and we just have to do our thing and be good with it. And like I said, I mean, I know we can sit here all night long and debate the different laws and stuff, but honestly, you know, as a YouTube connoisseur, because I love watching YouTube videos, I will say that, you know, seeing what's really happening on the legal side of things, I think is really important. But also, you know, people want to know about, you know, when I have somebody like you on, you know, what makes you tick, what is your fascination, and what animals do you truly have a major passion for?
Yeah, like I said, like literally intelligence is my biggest thing. I do really like seeing how the mind works. So like I said, mambas are huge, forest cobras, and it ain't because of the name mamba. I've got to, because that's another huge thing. I'm going to go off on a slight tangent there. When I was 12 years old, I was hiking out through Arizona, about 2 hours outside of the city limits, looking for tarantulas because I found my first tarantula. It was the coolest thing ever. I was watching them walk across the road. It was so awesome. Like, I've got to see more of these things. So I was out there at 12 years old. I then drove out there, and I'm walking out, me and my friends that had drove me, you know, uncle, whatever, walking out through there. And I come up on a rattlesnake. Right as I'm about to step down, I look down and there's a rattlesnake. I don't know if it's a Western Diamondback or Mojave. I'm 12. I can't tell.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. If the bite would have sucked, I'm 2 hours out. Yeah, I shine that flashlight down. I'm just sitting there. I'm just like shaking. I'm like, from everything I've ever learned, Discovery Channel, National Geographic has told me that this animal right now is going to kill me. Not only that, he's probably going to get my address. He's going to go back home, kill my mother. He's going to try to kill my dog. He's going to do everything in his power to ruin my life. Yeah. So I back up slowly, and he just sits there. And I'm like, whew, okay, I'm out of strike range now. Well, I want to hear him rattle. I mean, I'm already here. I've got to find a stick. So I'm looking for a stick. If you've ever tried to find a stick in the desert, they're not there. They're hard to find. Yeah. So I finally find a stick, and I sit there, and I just move him just a little bit, and he won't rattle. He's just like slithers away. And I'm like, where are you going? I'm ready to hear this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come on, move, do something. And he's like, leave me alone. I'm leaving. And I'm like, wow, that's very uneventful. Like, I really thought that this was going to be different. That's unreal. And all of a sudden, I'm like, maybe these animals aren't as bad as what everybody makes them out to be. So I started doing my research, and comes to find out, you know, black mambas, in my opinion, are the most feared snake in the world, at least where we live. Because according to National Geographic and Discovery Channel, the black mamba is just, it's a horrible snake. So you look into it, the World Health Organization back in 1957 to 1979 took a survey that showed 2,553 people were bitten by venomous snakes in South Africa. Okay, 75 of which were black mambas. Only 75? That seems like a low number. Yeah. Okay, only 63 had systemic envenomation signs. So that means 12 of those were dry bites or should have been, which is weird because dry bites and mambas doesn't happen. So that's, I don't know. And then out of all those, only 21 died. We're at like 35%, 21. And my math might be off a little bit. I'm doing some in my head, so bear with.
Yeah.
Now, lastly on that, it wasn't the first 5 years of that study, there was no anti-venom that had cross-reactivity for black mamba venom. So those people, in theory, 100% death. So are the black mambas as bad as we make them out to be? No, it's a snake that sits back in the trees, watches you, and then as you're approaching, it's like, oh crap, oh crap. You know, it's seen you 45 feet away. It knew you were there. And the whole time it's like, if I don't move, he'll go on. And by the time you get within a 10-foot range, it's so built up on the fact that you're stalking it, it's about to freak out. Unbeknownst to it, you just came back from the store and you're actually just trying to put your chicken breast instead of the refrigerator. But it doesn't know that. Yeah. They are just so wound up. They're the biggest scaredy cats I've ever seen. Now, for me, for you, they're a very dangerous animal. In a captive setting, the black mamba is probably one of the highest up there. You know, Bothrops, black mamba, coastal taipans, eastern browns, they're up there. That's the ones, right? Yeah. But at the same time, in the wild, these snakes are very good at getting out of the way. So back to the Burmese pythons, maybe we need to stop believing all the hype that CNBC puts out there about this crap that just isn't real. It's all clickbait. Now, on my platform, TikTok's doing better than cable right now for some reason. On my platform, I can actually reach these people directly and tell them, hey, maybe you shouldn't believe that crap. Unfortunately, I'm outnumbered. But, you know, if we get more people on the platform, on YouTube, on TikTok, on all these platforms, we can start reaching people, you know, yet again, banding together, because we are the 1%. You know, very few people, because the ball python lady, she don't know. She can't even identify the garter snake in the back of her house. Yeah. You know, I appreciate her helping pay our bills, but at the same time, you know, whatever. I just learning about the stuff inside your natural area and understanding that, you know, the brown recluse is not the scariest animal out there. The black widow does not, 30% of bites are wet bites, 60% are dry bites. So, I mean, when's the last time someone died in the United States from a spider bite? Yeah, you have a much higher chance of dying from a toaster. 700 people, 700 people died from a toaster last year.
Or refrigerator.
Yeah. How many people died from a spider? 0. Not a single freaking one. So.
Yeah, it's teaching. It's the, like you said, it's the teaching part. It's people understanding it. And I'll be honest with you, go to Cody's. You know, I love Cody to death. Talk about him on every show. Cody's got 2 pairs of enormous black mambas. I have never seen them snakes act anything other than a giant, deadly king snake. I've watched Cody work those animals and just easy peasy. Nothing, you know, cage to can, can to cage, never a problem. No, I don't think I've ever even seen the inside of one of their mouths. And I've been going there for over 2 years. No. So, but now if you jump over and go to the Jamesons or the Westerns, that's a completely different animal. And they are all on edge. Now the Eastern greens, I've worked the Easterns, no problem. We switched over to Doug Barr cages with custom built shifts inside of them. And other than having to pull the snakes out when the greens laid eggs, I don't think he even takes them out of the cage. They go up into the shift, shut the door, lock it, and service the cage, open the shift, unlock it, done. So, you know, it's nice to have the ability to do that stuff. And in the same sense, you know, we've talked about like the big, you know, the big Bothrops and getting them a good shift and, you know, making sure that you try to design a shift so that if people are coming to see the animal, while they're in the shift, they can still somehow view them. So this way it's not a wasted trip, you know, like the Tyrannosaurus not wanting to eat the goat. You know, but it's just like that. I mean, how often do you go and you want to see something, you know, and you're like, oh, where is it? Oh, it's hiding. Well, shit, I want to see that. I'm sorry. What do you want me to do about it? It's hiding.
Yeah, I kind
You
of
know?
think at the same time that I don't think it'll be replaced by no means, but I think eventually we're going to be looking at more of a scenario of a virtual zoo at the
Yeah.
same time. I understand people are eventually going to, they're still going to want to see them in real life. At the same time, if you put scales sticking up from a black-headed bushmaster and that's all you can see, and that's the one snake you want to see, you could just come over to my channel and I'll take one out and we'll show you. Because the fact of the matter is, I don't stress them out that much. They need to clean out their cage anyway. There ain't going to be 100 people tapping on the glass. You can actually see them move. You can see how they react. You can see the crazy moments of their food aggression. And you can't see that inside the zoo.
This day and age of 4K cameras and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and everything is at your fingertips, you're right. And I think as you start to see that, having cage cameras and you working that snake to clean and feed it, I think is a great idea. I think it gives people that, I went to the zoo and I saw it sitting in that corner underneath that plant. I could barely see it, but I went over to Brandon's channel and I had the ability to see the animal, and I got to see him work it. I got to see it eat. I got to see the whole thing stretched out, and it didn't cost me anything.
Yeah.
So
yeah. At the same time, I do understand, especially with the whole Corona thing, we have noticed that people do really like to leave the house. Like, it does feel really well comparatively, but at the same time, I definitely think that for certain species, this is the more logical answer.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. The bad part is so my main goal is the fact that, well, there's a few things. First and foremost, I've had friends that were the smartest people in a certain facet, and these people were just ungodly smart. Like, they were so far above my head, I couldn't even understand them at the time. And then they pass away, and all that knowledge is just dead. It's just gone. I mean, they had all those books right up here, and they could answer all your questions. Yeah. So when they're dead, they're gone. If I can leave this as a legacy, if in 20 years you can look back at my videos and be like, wow, that was, I never knew that. That's something we don't talk about nowadays and age. I can't believe that's how that works. That's awesome. Secondarily, like I said, I can reach a much bigger audience. Unfortunately, like I said to you, the black mamba is not the scariest snake in the world. I'm going to be fought on that all day. But the fact of the matter is, if I can stop preaching that as much, even though I love them and they're beautiful and they're awesome, if I can start talking about the medical implications of the venom, that's why Venom Man. That's why I'm looking into venom so much. I'm not smart enough to freaking talk about the enzymes and protease and all that, ACE inhibitors, and I don't understand all that yet. I'd like to eventually. But at the same time, if I can help you understand how captopril works, that it is an ACE inhibitor that was derived in 1975 from the Bothrop sherica, which yet again helps 100 million people in the United States. That's how many suffer from high blood pressure. But at the same time, those people are alive because more than likely sometime during their medical treatment, they are put on a medication. Maybe I can change some people's opinion, because honestly, I want to change the farmer's opinion down in Georgia that has 1,000 acres, that has that Eastern Diamondback, that its venom is the only one that holds that protein that could cure Parkinson's. Yeah. That's the only one. I can't save that snake. I can't do the research to figure this out. But maybe I can reach the person that can leave that snake alone long enough that people like Dr. Brian Fry or Nathaniel Frank, or which they work together, but who I mean, you know, Kentucky Reptiles, maybe those guys can get over there and figure that out if I can just reach that person. And that's what I'm trying to do. That's my mission. Originally, it was just to play with some cool snakes, but at the same time, I feel like I can accomplish more.
Yeah, 100%. And getting out there and handling and
more the merrier, you know?
Exactly. You know, being out there and doing this is so much fun. And you know, like I said, having people like you on to talk about, you know, what we're doing and you know, why we're doing it is even better. Cause I think it gives people the insight of, you know, hey, maybe these guys really aren't nuts. They're just doing this because it's something that they love. So, but hey, you know what? Let's wrap things up. What do you have going on? Anything new and exciting coming up? Anything you want to plug?
I'm definitely getting back into the YouTube. I've got some videos coming up that I'm working on. I'm still a little shoddy on it for sure, but I am focusing a lot on TikTok because I feel like I get a better reach. I post on Instagram just extra little photos that ain't really necessarily worth talking about. But I think I'm going to hit 1 million on TikTok here very soon, which is crazy because I never thought that would happen. I want to do some more podcasts. I like just being able to talk about this stuff. You know, I don't have a lot of friends that do this. I'm a loner for sure, and I enjoy being able to reach people in any way, shape, or form. We're going to be having another Venom Fest in theory, as far as we know, in October. I will be there guaranteed if it happens. So I'd love to meet people in person, talk a little bit more about venoms. I'm working right now. I'm doing more research on like lizard venoms because that really interests me, like monitor lizards, all the varanids. But otherwise, like if you don't mind, I would love if you ever get the chance to talk to people like Bryce Broom from Africa. He's young. He's like just hit 20 years old, just had a birthday. Kid's a freaking genius. He's really smart for his age. People like Herb Hippie, maybe you've had him on. I don't think you have though yet.
No,
maybe.
no, but I've talked to Bryce. Bryce will be on at some point. We just couldn't connect. And then when he was back from being out in the bush, I was moving, and we'll end up getting connected at some point here soon. So just scheduling, we just have to get through. So
Herb
Hippie,
he's been doing it for like Herb Hippie's been doing it for 4 or 5 years. He's been doing the whole TikTok thing. He's already got a following of almost 2 million people, and the guy's doing it right. His handling, there's never been a moment where I'm like, ooh, don't do it like that. For 5 years, how do you handle that well? He has full control of the snake at all times. It is amazing. I love watching that guy work for sure. Then Nick from Wicked Wildlife from Australia. The guy has a wealth of knowledge on Australian reptiles. But otherwise, those are my go-to people when it comes to questions I don't understand.
For sure. For sure.
But I appreciate you having me on for sure.
No, man. And listen, we're going to do some more shows, and at some point I want to do like a venomous roundtable. So I'll definitely reach out and we'll get you on, and we'll have a small group of us on to just talk different species. And I think what I would like to try to do is with the group of people, once I figure out how I want to do it, I'll have everybody formulate maybe 4 or 5 questions. I'll get a second person to co-host with me, and we'll just go ahead and go down the list of questions and just kind of have everybody give an answer from the round table itself. And we'll record that, and maybe we'll make it into, maybe an episode or 2 or maybe 3 if we get enough good information out there that we can really put something cool together. So, I think I've got it.
That would be freaking awesome.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. So, but all right, man. Well, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Everybody, for real, thanks for being here. Thanks for putting up with me, because I know I'm a pain in the ass. All you free handlers out there, I do love you. I don't hate y'all. Maybe a little dislike, but you'll get over it. We're all human beings. We all have our flaws. Ask my wife. I have many. So, but all right, brother. Well, again, it was great having you on, and we will definitely talk soon. I'll keep in touch with you. This episode will air next Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Heck yeah, sounds great.
All right.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Signing off. We'll have a good one. Thanks, Brandon.
Have a good one.